Very recently, the main lineup of voice actors for the Mario movie from Illumination Studios was announced during the September Nintendo Direct. And people have lots of thoughts, opinions, and feelings on the choices. Some upset, some happy, but very few understanding. Now, understanding the choices doesn't mean you like or agree with them, just that you see the casting process chosen for what it is. Good, bad, or neutral. I fall under neutral. I don't care too much. So I make a video about it. Because after pondering it all further, I realized that there are some crucial elements not being considered when one comes to their concluding opinion. Most thus far have chosen the emotional route, which is understandable considering this news is quite fresh. You're entitled to that, but perhaps you should sit on these few things first before you become too settled on your conclusion. Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice trying to put my acting 2 cents to good use for today's video. Now obviously, while my own experiences in voice acting, stage and film acting, and even my BA in theater do help to give me a more well-rounded viewpoint on this and think about things that others might not consider, these things do not make my opinion gospel. I know that full well. Nonetheless, I do hope that this video at least proves useful in offering some different perspectives in this sea of emotionally driven opinions. Personally, when I first heard the cast lineup, I was pretty, okay, whatever about it all. I was just glad that Charles Martinet existed in it at all. Most of the cast, however, I don't really know who they are. After listening to some differing thoughts, mostly negative, which is fine, something began to rub me the wrong way. So I let myself stew on it for a little bit and came to the following conclusions. I hope you find them intriguing. The very first thing we need to get out of the way and possibly just get over is the fact that yes, these choices are cash grabs and aimed for a specific audience. Partly younger, but also partly adults who played the games when they were young, but perhaps are nowhere near as enveloped in the video gaming community as the rest of us are. Now, I for one prefer making art for the sake of good art, purposeful, not money driven. However, this is an industry that needs to make money, and this is how they will do it, seeing as video games don't really work as movies. Doesn't mean I like it, but that's the truth. Obviously, you can make good art that sells well, How to Train Your Dragon, but again, I'm someone that does not advocate for video games being films. Some would argue that maybe Detective Pikachu or the Sonic movie were good. I didn't want to see them, so I don't have an opinion on their goodness except to say, I'm sure some nostalgia plays a part, and that doesn't make them, quote, good art, but maybe just enjoyable. That said, saying these choices are cash grabs does not automatically imply that the actors have no talent. One may not enjoy all of their work, but I mean, come on. Jack Black, that's a good one at least. Enough said. I'm simply trying to point out the main reality of these decisions, which most of you probably already were aware of. A Mario movie, in my opinion, because it is a video game, not a movie story, is not going to be all that excellent. So yes, they do need cash grab actors to help push it along. And think about it, they are in part cash grabs because the actors themselves are good. How else would they be so popular? Well, anyway, next point. Voice acting for a video game story is different than voice acting for a full story feature film. Plain and simple. Now, to those outside the world of acting, or for those who may have only been in acting a little bit, say in high school or a little bit in college, I can totally understand why you would think they're the same, but they're not. For example, I'm decent with stage and voice acting, but put me behind a camera? Something just does not translate in my acting. I can do it, but it's not that good. And no, this right here, not the same thing. There are actors who are phenomenal on stage but too much behind the camera, and vice versa. There are different kinds of acting, and yes, even within voice acting, there is a difference between voicing a character in-game with far fewer lines and voicing a fully fledged, well-rounded movie character. Some actors can make that jump just fine, and I am not saying Charles Martinet couldn't. For all we know, maybe he didn't really want to do the full Mario role. I don't know. someone's probably going to post an interview where he did say he wanted to play Mario. I don't know. There's still other factors to consider though. Just as voicing a game is different than a movie, so is the script writing, which affects how it needs to be portrayed and acted. Because obviously we can all think of games that had big voice acting and strong emotional stories. This is why Breath of the Wild was such a big deal and was met with tons of differing opinions. How you write for a game story is very different from how you write a film story, and as such, while one may be fantastic for the game character, it might not translate for the direction they want to go for a film. Again, it depends on the direction they're going with the full film story, as opposed to a little video game story. They could take a film story a direction that would be very closely in line with the game, and thus the same voice actors would be fine, but it may not. Also cash grab. Just understand that this might not necessarily be a slap in the face to the voice actors. I mean, I suppose it could be. We don't know. We might think it is, but we don't know that for sure. So those are maybe some thoughts to consider when questioning the direction and why they wouldn't use the original voice actors. Cash grab, and the difference in what kind of acting is needed. But what about the actors that were in fact chosen? Well, I'm not familiar with most of the work of most of these actors, except for Chris Pratt and Jack Black. So let's start with Jack Black. Jack Black is super talented and happens to be a massive geek. Now I say happens to be, as I do not believe that should ever be a mandatory prerequisite. If you've seen my very first video, you've heard me explain this before. Talent comes before a fan. In the case of Jack Black, he's both. And frankly, a truly talented actor would make sure they become a fan so they are fully engrossed in the lore, knowledge, and understanding of the character they are portraying. And then will be subject to whatever the director wants. Tom Felton, anyone? He had no idea what Harry Potter was when he got his role as Draco Malfoy. But let's be honest, Jack Black is probably the least controversial pick of all the actors chosen. I think he'll make a great Bowser. Now for Chris Pratt, going from least controversial to most controversial. Getting the obvious out of the way, he's not Charles Martinet, and now most hate him. And I'm sure he saw it coming too. Sorry, but that's not a good reason to discredit him, and frankly, it's kind of immature unless your reasoning for disliking Chris in the role is simply, hey, doesn't matter who it is, I just wish it was Charles Martinet. Sorry, gonna die on that hill, but it is what it is. In which case, fine, at least you're admitting it's nostalgia and wanting it to be the OG actor, despite what I said earlier about differences of voice acting and direction. That kind of opinion I can respect, if you're being honest about it. Moving on though, can I picture him as Mario? Not really. But maybe he'll be great for whatever direction Illumination has decided to go. You may not like that direction, but just saying. However, he is good at voice acting. Yes, I've only heard him in the Lego movie, but bias, I like that movie. But many may not realize what a diverse resume of characters Chris Pratt has portrayed aside from the silly hero of Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World. No, I still can't picture him as Mario, but you get the idea. Actually, what's most disappointing is how people are ripping him, and I will fully concede now that this might just be a loud minority. I haven't gone too far down the rabbit hole, it's kind of dangerous, but what I can see is that people are tearing him apart as a person, that because they disagree with him on a few personal choices and views, they think that's a reason to fire him. Whoa, talk about selfish, immature, and just flat out mean. Now you might be thinking, Geek, I've definitely heard you say that you don't watch certain actors or movies because of the viewpoints of certain actors. You're right, but I am not saying that they lack any talent and don't deserve any of the roles they've gotten. Big difference. Yeah, there are some actors that for whatever reason, because I know certain views they have, choices they've made, things they've said that really rub me the wrong way on a moral spectrum, no matter what, when I watch their work, I just can't get it out of my head, and it taints my view of their acting, of the film or TV show itself, and so I have to just kind of stop and distance myself and say, you know, this isn't fair to them for me to have this judgmental viewpoint, I just need to back away. But I'm not going to scream and cry and say that they should be banned from Hollywood because we might have differing political views or something. That's silly. but that's how Hollywood and the media are. You're allowed to not enjoy watching him for sure, but that's not a reason to fire him. It's people making ridiculous, misinformed generalizations. Eesh. In the end though, I get it. People who grew up with the games and adore the nostalgia want those original actors. But please try to understand all these differences that do come into play. They are real and important factors that most outside the world of acting may not think about. You don't have to like it, you don't have to watch it, the world will keep spinning. And cash grab. It's real. Doesn't discredit the actors necessarily, but you know how it is. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope it was chill and simple enough to understand even if you don't like the decisions Illumination made. It's whatever, but that's easy for me to say because, again, in the end, I don't think video games should be made into film. Anyway, let me know in the comment section which voice actors you're decently excited about. You know, keep things positive. And while you're at it, consider joining the Geekdom by subscribing and joining me over on Instagram at The Geek Apprentice, and maybe even following my Patreon link to see if you want to support the channel in some way, like those in my highly in-tiered Joking Batman, Code and Data, and Bretton Weber. By the way, thank you to each of my patrons no matter your tier, y'all rock. But anyway, that's all for today. Thank you for watching.